Welcome. My name is Fauzia. Let's get started. How many times have you noticed that when you suffer from a minor or a major setback, the first thing that you think is that it's your fault, that it has to be your fault. You had to have caused all this, whatever that was, and that I'm bad. And the feeling that comes with that is of shame. And the behavior that follows that is of wanting to flight or freeze, isolate myself. I just want to go away and hide because the feeling of shame is so intense. If you can relate to this, today's video is for you to watch. This is a video on complex PTSD as it relates to parent-child relationship. Now, you can suffer from complex PTSD if you are in an abusive marriage or in an abusive work environment, or even if you belong to a cult. What is complex PTSD? Complex PTSD is when a child is abused repeatedly, frequently, over a long period of time, makes it complex and very complicated. And that's complex PTSD. Now, what's abuse? Abuse is physical, verbal, sexual, emotional, and neglect. So when a parent is repeatedly abusing the child, either physically or emotionally or verbally, but the message to the child is that it's your fault why I am having to discipline you in this form, why I'm having to withhold food from you because it's your fault, why I'm having to withhold affections from you is your fault. And then the comparison starts that your siblings, I don't have any problems with your siblings because they are all good and you are all bad. And the child feels worthlessness. Child feels not good enough because the child is trying to process what's happening to them. And they're like, well, you know, if I was good enough, my parents would love me. My parents would validate me. I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as my siblings because they're always getting all the love and attention and affection and validation, and I'm not getting any. Instead, I'm always in trouble. I'm always considered the black sheep of the family. I'm the one who is told to go sit in my room while everybody's having their dinner, and I'm not even allowed to eat that day. Or that the child is told, I didn't even want to have you. I would try to abort you. And you were so stubborn, you had to be born. And here I am having to deal with you today. And I wish that I had not had you. Not only is it verbal abuse, but that's also emotional abuse. So the child grows up believing that it's always their fault. And the core identity that comes out of complex PTSD is, it's my fault, I'm bad, and feelings of shame. And we also know that avoidant attachment style is very much associated with complex PTSD when a child, or now as an adult, feels like it's their fault, they're bad, and they feel shame. So they actually want to go away. They want to run away. They just want to isolate. They want to get away from the situation because they just don't have the skills on how to deal with that. And then this personality, the core identity that came out of complex PTSD is what drives this avoidant attachment style. And also dissociation, emotional dysregulation, feeling of unworthiness, feeling of not being good enough, and that I'm bad, it's always my fault. So what is dissociation? Dissociation is when one is mentally checked out, but physically there. So if something happened that was so overwhelming for you that you ended up leaving the situation mentally, but physically you were there, for example, right, driving a car, from point A to point B. But when you got to point B, you had no memory of how you got there. That's because you dissociated. Number two, emotional dysregulation. That is when you are collecting this data in your head and you're going to come up with all kinds of reasons because someone promised that they were going to do something for you and they didn't. And therefore, I'm not worthy enough. I'm not good enough. It must be something I did. I am bad. I'm not good enough. And you feel shame. And so all this stuff is, you're making all this stuff up in the head and the body is reacting to it. As we know, whenever we have these thoughts, the body reacts to it. And those are called feelings. So it gets so overwhelming when the person comes in front of you, you just let it all out. And what happens is that you find out that you may not have been quite accurate in the way you were thinking, because thinking is not considered, but thinking is something that's based on your past or the future, because in the present, you just have to go with the fact, with the reality. So the person who is actually on the receiving end of your outburst is kind of confused and not very happy, and they actually may not want to be around you anymore. So a lot of relationships get destroyed because of emotional dysregulation. Then this feeling of unworthiness. Then also having mind posts. So a child starts to have these mind posts in, okay, so my brother and sister are in school, I'm not in school. Maybe when I start going to school, my parents will love me. They will give me all the validation. They will, I'll be worthy. I'll be good enough. And the child goes to school, same thing. They come home and they're still in trouble. They're still the black sheep of the family. They're still the one who is getting reprimanded, who is losing their privileges. They're even losing their basic necessities. The siblings will get brand new clothes and you end up not getting any clothes. And therefore you're having to wear outdated clothes, or you're having to wear all the clothes that you've had. They don't even fit you anymore, but you're still having to wear those. So then you think, okay, well, my mother treats her sisters this way. She's very close to her sisters. Maybe if I got married and had children, then this will change. And then you wait for that time. And when that time comes, you're married with children. And guess what? Nothing has changed. The abuse has continued. You're still being blamed for all the family problems. You're being blamed. Any problems that they had medically was blamed on you. Any problems they had financially was blamed on you. And you had developed a trauma bond. And now if you're taking your children there, they're also in a trauma bond. So complex PTSD is something that you must work through. And here are some of the tips that I'm going to give you. One is mindfulness meditation. Very, very important, because what it does, it helps you to actually stay in the present so you can actually not react to what's happening up here. I recommend highly for you to practice yoga, because yoga is another method that would help you to stay in the present and for you to keep your attention on your breathing. So I would recommend mindfulness meditation. I would recommend yoga, and you can check out two links. One is Eckhart Tolle. He's the author of The Power of Now. And the other link is to Kim Ing, E-N-G, and she actually does mindfulness meditations, and she is absolutely awesome, and she just will help you in learning how to do mindfulness, and that is going to help you a lot. Now, we will talk about this some more in my videos that I will be posting. If you've liked my video today, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. So whenever I have any new videos, you will be notified for that. I thank you so much for being here today, and I hope that you benefited from this episode. Thank you and have a great day.